Now, I know this take isn't really as popular now as it used to be, like, say, a month or a couple years ago, but I really never understood the overwhelming hate for MatPat of the game, food, film, and I think there's another one that he has as well. Am I blanking on one of the theory channels? I think I'm blanking on one. Regardless, there's a lot of theory channels. MatPat, one of the most iconic figures in all of fashion theory. Interesting. Style theory. They have, literally MatPat is one of the most iconic figures in all of YouTube's history. You look at a picture of MatPat, especially that one where he's like this or whatever, that like cutout image of him, you recognize it in a heartbeat, at a glance. You could recognize like ASCII art of that picture, I think. So with that in mind, I was definitely always on the side of like, you know, I don't really see what all the hate for MatPat is about. And if you think I'm lying about there being hate for MatPat, because right now people are generally quite positive towards him because he's retiring, look back to like a year ago or more. Any post on Twitter about MatPat was overwhelmingly negative. And don't get me wrong, I like my memes that kind of dunk on him a little bit, like make fun of him a little. Don't get me wrong. I like MatPat, but also this is quite funny. God damn it. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Nope. Nope. Where is it?
The average male height.
Here it is. I love this. This is so good.
The average male height of a human being is 5 foot 6 inches tall, 1.67 meters. The average female is 5'2" or 1.57 meters. Our crewmates in the average male height of
That never gets old. I'm sorry, but that joke never gets old. Can I find the original, though? There's an original one. Here it is. Oh my god.
Islamic faith,
I love this one. Oh, this one's a classic. This one's a absolute classic. Yeah, okay, we're good.
In the Islamic faith, there's the Quran. It's the Islamic sacred book, just like Christians have themselves the Bible and Judaism has the Torah. The Quran is believed to be the word of God as dictated to the Prophet Muhammad. And it took, get this, 23 years for the entire book to be revealed to Muhammad. It's also Muslim belief that the first verses of the Quran were revealed to the Prophet Muhammad on the 23rd night of the 9th Islamic month. So again, in the Islamic faith, the number 23 matters a lot, meaning that those 23 pillars in the Minecraft ocean mine. In the Islamic faith, there's the Quran.
That's not even the same one. That's not even the same one. That's not even the same one. Where's the original? I haven't even seen that one before. Is this it? Oh yeah, here it is. Here it is. This is the classic. This is my favorite of all of them. This is the one that was my introduction to this type of meme. I love this one.
Kaaba. The Kaaba is a black cube building at the center of Islam's most important mosque, the Great Mosque of Mecca. It is the most important place in the Islamic faith. So important that practitioners of Islam are almost required to take a pilgrimage to see this once in their life and give worship there. Why? Well, it's thought that the Kaaba is the house of God, the sacred house, the connection between heaven and the earth. The Kaaba is a sacred place with an inside of gold and marble, but on the outside, it appears to just be a large black cube of dark granite, just like we see in the game with the dark prismarine Kaaba.
It's so fucking good. It's so fucking good. Oh my god. So like, listen, I absolutely love MatPat, okay? I've never been on the hate train for MatPat, okay? So when I heard that he was retiring, I genuinely felt quite sad. And this morning, I was having a nice big sip of oh wait, did I mute? I muted Night Moth, not unmuted. Damn it. See, make me have to type so much. Anyway, I was sitting at my desk, drinking a Monster, having some weed. I just woke up, chilling out, waking up for the morning, and I was scrolling through YouTube, watching some videos when I saw this video suggested to me. Film Theory Finale. Don't Trust Your Heroes. And I know it's it's a bit old at this point, but I went ahead and I watched it. And I got about halfway in and I was like, holy shit. Matt Walsh. MatPat just out, the good Matt, just made a like woke video essay as his final film theory video. Like full on, this is an unironic feminist critique of male children's media and representation and role models, and like talking about how he as a father has started to pay more attention to the children's media he shows his kid because he wants to see male role models that represent good positive traits, and he's noticed a massive lack in those things, and that actually concerns him. Here, I will show a bit from this video, just to kind of give you a little bit of a taste of the general idea behind it. And I have to say, I was really impressed because MatPat was always progressive and left-leaning. I've never doubted that at any point. He has some like cringe older clips that have aged poorly, but generally speaking, especially recently, he's clearly indicated a very progressive lean to his politics that is unmistakable. So I'm not exactly surprised he holds these values. It's just surprising he chose to make his last set of videos so politically charged in a left-leaning way. Like, it's a great thing. These are going to be some of his most viewed videos of all time, so I'm happy about that. I just find it interesting. I want to show a small portion of this video so you guys know what I'm talking about here. Highly recommend watching this whole video yourselves, by the way.
It's Zaddy era. Today I wanted to start off with a question. I want you to think about all the media that you consumed during your childhood, all the TV shows and movies that you loved as a kid. And now, with the perspective that you've gained as you've gotten older, can you name for me 5 good father figures from children's media? I'm talking about wholesome dads who want the best for their kids, who try really hard to teach them and nurture them and show them love and all the good things that dad should be doing. Legitimately, go down to the comments, type out who comes to mind, because I consume a lot of media, and I had a hard time making this list. Back when we brought Leon as creative director here on Film Theory, this was actually one of the first conversations he and I had about the state of media. Even more recently, we've asked this question around the office, and people really struggle with it. I mean, it's not impossible to come up with a list. You'll eventually get there, but it's shockingly hard. Our list ended up being Bandit from Bluey, Arthur Weasley from Harry Potter, Uncle Iroh from Avatar.
Isn't it interesting that the list is so small that several of you in chat said Uncle Iroh, and then so did they? Because there's roughly a handful of consistently, genuinely good dads as representation in media. Like, I genuinely think that a huge problem in our society in regards to media is that there aren't really that many good father figures to look up to in media. Even the fathers that are considered to be doing a really hard thing for their families. Like one of the most popular shows of all time that is framed as if the father in that show is in the right by many people is Breaking Bad. Breaking Bad is an example that many men would unironically give as an example of a show that contains a father who fits all those criteria. The fact is that many men, even fathers, have been convinced that bad representations of fatherhood, like very poor representations of fatherhood, are to be aspired to. Not to mention, as tone deaf as it gets, Walt ends up in a physical battle with his wife and son by the end of the show. Sorry, big spoilers, I suppose, but it's Breaking Bad. If you haven't seen it yet, you deserve to have it spoiled. But yeah, it's like, what else can I say? This is a pretty salt. Nope, Homer Simpson does not qualify in any way. Homer Simpson is a child abuser. He chokes his son. They've kind of gone back on. Well, no, they haven't gone back on that. I forgot. No, they like Homer still chokes his son. Homer is Peter Griffin abuses his kids constantly, farting in Meg's face and trapping her in the car. Yeah, those are bad fathers, Delancer. Yeah, I assume you were. Bob Belcher is actually a good example of a good father. Yeah, no, Bob Belcher is actually, I think, should be on this list. I guess there might be instances where that doesn't apply, but generally it seems like he would be on this list. Yeah, before Walter White, it was Tony Soprano. You're completely right.
The Last Airbender, Mufasa from Lion King, and Goofy from a Goofy movie. But the fact that it took us a significant amount of time to do is pretty darn telling. Fathers in sitcoms are usually bumbling buffoons, deadbeat dads, or need anger management. And it's not just a lack of good dads here either. Honestly, most of the male characters that you see across media, both young and old, they're not great. Classic cartoon kids are almost universally bratty, cruel, greedy, or inconsiderate. Hey,
Like, when you think about it like this, like, how many male main characters from cartoons, even recent, well, I mean, obviously recently is more common, but, like, especially when we were growing up, if you're, like, in your 20s, like my age, like, shit. A lot of the male characters that were, like, our role models were kind of pieces of shit. Greg Heffley is, like, a character written to be as big of a piece of shit as possible. I heard a theory the other day that explained Diary of a Wimpy Kid is effectively, fundamentally, a story about 3 types of autism. Greg, Fregley, and Rowley. Rowley is what, if you are autistic, you want to be. Everyone should aspire to be a Rowley. Greg is truly the worst case scenario of what you could become if you are autistic. A self-hating, like, mean, manipulative, cruel, like, embarrassed, like narcissistic piece of shit, right? Like, Greg Heffley is almost like a Kiwi farmer who is themselves autistic, but, like, hates on and stalks and harasses internet people that are themselves autistic as a way of, like, venting their self-hatred. Like, Greg Heffley is like he's like one of those people. He's self-hating and he hates, like, Rowley and he hates Fregley. Fregley is who people like Greg think is the worst case scenario, while like, Rowley is in fact exactly who you want to be. Rowley is as happy as it gets. Now, granted, this is just a theory. A book theory. Did he ever make that? Did he ever make a book theory? But I found it quite interesting, because I was like, not all that really, like, makes sense, but that Greg bit really does. The bit about Greg really kind of, like, vibes. I kind of see that. Like, Greg being, like, a self-hating, autistic person who, like, takes advantage of other autistic people to, like, fulfill himself, like people online that do that. I've seen that kind of stuff, and it's like, that kind of meshes. But like Greg Heffley is obviously an extreme example, but think about it for a minute. How many male cartoon characters from, like, the era of when, I guess if you're in your 20s or my age, like, you grew up, weren't pieces of shit? I mean, I'm talking, like, even outside of cartoons, but still, like, obviously these examples are great, but I mean, I can't really think of many. I really can't think of many. Like, one of the main traits of young men in media is they're kind of pieces of shit. This sounds like red pillar grifters? What? No, Delancer, this is feminist critique.
Do this! You're so stupid! 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 Stupid!
Even though
I don't think in any way it is red pill or, like, MRA to say that, like, there's a problem with the type of role models men have because they have poor traits that rub off on other people. Oh, like Greg. Okay. Guys, is there a big... Marco. Okay, so there's like 8 seconds of delay. No wonder I keep getting confused by your messages. You guys are like quite behind in your responses, so I'm like well on to the next thing by the time you guys respond. That's weird. Why does Twitch have such a delay? Huh.
The oldest of old school animated characters that have been sanitized to be as brand safe and neutral today as possible, they started off as horrible jerks.
Abruptly, he becomes an uncontrollable monster.
They're angry, they're violent, they're not good people. So why do I bring it up in my final episode? Well, as a dad, I've started to pay a lot more attention to these sorts of things in the media that I watch because I want to know if it's something that I can actually share with Ollie. And surprised.
So like, that's the bit of the video I wanted to show you guys. That was like the sort of the bit that I wanted to showcase for all of you to use as the basis of this conversation. I really like that he talked about this. To many people, you may view this as like almost like MRA-ish, but I mean, I think most of you in chat know enough about like feminist critique and philosophy to understand that feminism is also a theory or a way of a thought process that analyzes gender stereotypes and expectations and how they help and hurt certain people. So, while unfortunately it's broadly ignored by a lot of mainstream feminist discussion and thought, a lot of feminism's basis is on helping men. The patriarchy, as it is called, the general sort of umbrella of systems that, were built by men, have been preserved primarily by men, and generally benefit men. The patriarchy, while it has many ways in which it privileges men, it also has many ways in which it hurts men. The most common examples are the expectations for men to be very socially and emotionally isolated and stoic in order to keep up with this idea of what a man is supposed to be. And this idea is obviously, and MatPat got to this here, the idea that boys and to go from being a boy to a man is to be capable of using violence to solve your problems. So much of the media that MatPat has screened, I have no doubt, and that I remember watching when I was younger, is media that had this implication that to truly grow up from being a boy and becoming a man is to become fully capable of solving all of your problems on your own with violence. And that is a lesson that is almost entirely taught subconsciously, without you even realizing it. You don't even consciously think that that is a lesson you're learning. It's just sort of a idea, a premise, a fact of life that ingrains itself in you without even a shred of doubt or questioning coming from you, because it's so unanimously taught and never really challenged as far as you're going to see when you're young. And so when that is like the basis of so many young men's media consumption, I feel as though it's quite important to recognize that from a very young age, young men are primed to believe the patriarchy and the ideals that it has defined for men and women are how things are supposed to be. You're so young when these ideas are implanted in you that when you're an adult and you get older, you can't remember a time in which those ideals were taught to you. You almost think that is the base, fundamental thing you're supposed to feel and believe, and that any other idea is going against nature. Think about how many naturalistic arguments are made in order to back up things that were just socialized, developed things or ideas or thought processes that people have, that people attribute to being naturalistic, because we almost unanimously have those things pushed on us. Gender is a good example. We'll never really realistically know whether or not, if you took somebody and deprived them of all gender expectations and what have you, if they would just happily develop without any conception of gender and never really identify with one or the other once they enter the world as an adult. We don't know if that would be the case, or if they would naturally incline themselves towards certain preferences no matter what, even growing up in a sterile white room with no input of the kind. We don't know, and we could never get away with doing a test like that because of many reasons. It's quite immoral to do so, but a lot of people will get this fundamental early life, these early life lessons taught subconsciously, and there will never be a case of questioning those life lessons later on. Like when they're older, like when they're 10 or 11 and they learn that like violence isn't the solution to all your problems, why do they need to be taught that? Why is it that in schools, even at a very young age, boys are so much more inclined towards violence? People say, oh, it's their brain wiring, it's their testosterone. It's like, no, it's not their testosterone. They're children. Why are little kids that are boys more prone to violence than young girls? MatPat gets to this argument in the video as well, and in large part it has to do with the way that boys are socialized from a young age. Hell, their toys are centered around the idea of fighting and like action figures and Nerf guns and stuff like that, fundamentally centered around fighting, while girl toys are generally fundamentally centered around nurturing and caregiving. Barbie dolls, playhouses, easy bake ovens, creation, nurturing, and helping, while boys' toys are centered around fighting, violence, and destruction. And so even by the time these young boys are entering their first years of school, they're already prone to violence. More so than women are, or young girls are, I should probably say, to not be confusing here. The fact that by the age of 8, 9, or 10, boys have to be told way more than girls that violence is not the solution to your problems means that that message is being brought to them too late in life. The opposite idea has already been cemented for them way earlier on in life than the positive message is introduced to them from. And I really liked that MatPat used this final video on the Film Theory channel to make a full-on feminist video essay critique of young men's media. I was genuinely surprised, and in a positive way, and I feel much more reaffirmed in my defense of MatPat. I'm a MatPat defender. I will go to the grave a MatPat defender.